it can directly benefit, you know, if this is your passion, it'll make a big difference. And it's only positive. It's only ever been positive. But yeah, there's a bit of a break in this rain, so even though the roads are a little wet, it's still pretty nice out. It's 65, it's humid from that rain and everything, so we're gonna enjoy it while it's here, because tomorrow it's supposed to go back down to about 38 degrees and possibly snow. So I'll take advantage of this mid-60s overcast. But anyways, I have a topic I was thinking about the other day. For this video, I want to talk about something that some people might not think of. And I will say this is probably a little bit, I don't think biased would be the right term for this, but I guess you could say that, because I am 5'6", like barely pushing it, and I have a 28-inch inseam, so I'm a pretty short rider for what these bikes are typically built for. I have to tippy-toe this thing, and I hang off the side to be able to stop at stoplights and hold it up. But I was thinking about it the other day, how I can do that. I can hold this bike up with no problems on one foot. I'm not worried about my balance or anything. But when I first got into these bikes, I was very concerned and thought that I had to have my feet flat on the ground. Now, the problem with that is I went ahead and lowered my first Gixxer 750 that I had. It was a K5 Gixxer 750. I think it was the 20th anniversary edition. But anyways, I lowered that thing. I slammed it to the ground. I slammed it 2 inches on the front and rear. I matched them up. And yeah, it was really low to the ground. Like, it was scraping in my driveway, bringing it up. So not only did it damage the fairings and stuff, but it wasn't comfortable to ride anymore because I couldn't hit corners or anything. And although this is my second bike, I still have, you know, I'm still learning things to this day. There's a lot more you can always learn about riding. You can always get better at leaning and stuff. And I had never had a big bike to lean on or anything, so I kind of missed out on that opportunity while I had that bike. So the thing that I'm getting at, working out and going to the gym and stuff has helped me a ton with just my confidence in riding and being able to hold my balance and everything and hold the bike up on one foot, because I'm stronger. I'm physically stronger. When I first started riding, I was only about 105 pounds. I was pure skin and bone, because all I had been doing before getting my motorcycle was sitting inside playing video games 25/8. Because of COVID, I didn't have to go in person for classes for school or anything. So I was just sitting there playing video games every day. I didn't have any muscle or crazy bone density. I lived off of photosynthesis from my monitor, basically. I never saw the sun or touched grass. So, but anyways, I was only about 105 pounds and just very skinny overall. I wasn't very strong. When I first started in the gym, I couldn't even press the 45-pound, like just the bar for the bench press. So that's kind of what I've been able to gauge off of, because now I do well over my body weight, and right now I'm only still 150 pounds. I'm still a smaller build, but it's a lot better than it was before. So this isn't to say that you can't be a small person and ride these bikes. I've definitely seen like a 5'2", 95-pound woman riding one of these things, and they, you know, they figure out how to balance it and stuff. Some of them ride it stock, some of them shave the seat, some of them lower it. You know, people make it work. But I've seen people ride these things stock that are way smaller than I was even. As a man, I think it's kind of just become a typical thing of the culture nowadays, that the gym is a way bigger thing than it ever used to be. That's kind of just a thing that's picked up with, one, with the ease of access. You know, you can find any advice online. You don't need to get a coach. There's so many different machines. Even people that are disabled and, you know, have injuries like rotator cuff injuries and knee injuries and stuff, there's machines that allow them to still work out and build muscle and stuff. So I think that's a big thing of it. And then also just with the unfortunate trends of the depression and, you know, being an alpha male, which I think is kind of stupid. It's a little bit overrated and stuff. But I think that also ties into the thing of being in the gym and stuff. But anyways, I think it makes sense. When you're on a motorcycle, you need to be physically fit, especially on a bike like these sport bikes. And if you're hitting corners like a MotoGP racer, you really do need to be physically fit. And again, your height really doesn't matter. You can manage with shorter height. But being a very small, lightweight rider, first off, you're gonna have a big thing: suspension. From the factory, this thing is built for like a 5'9", 180 pound rider. I am not that, and no 95 pound 5'2" girl is that. So you're gonna have to adjust things like your suspension to counteract and work with your weight how it's supposed to, which, granted, around my area there's actually nobody that knows how to tune the suspension. And as much as I work on my own bikes, I'm not good at the math of it. I haven't been able to understand how to figure out the math for adjusting your sag and preload and everything. So I just haven't bothered with it myself. I could at some point try it, but anyways, yeah, adjusting your suspension comes along with it, and it changes your bike. The further you are from the manufacturer's like standards that they build these bikes off of, the further from the proper experience you're going to have. And I can say that again with my second bike being a Gixxer 750 and me being still only about 115 pounds at the time. That thing literally scooped me up off of the seat when I would hit, you know, the throttle. Not to mention, I never topped that thing out in 6th gear because I was just too afraid to, because I literally couldn't stay on the freaking bike in place. So I again lost out on an opportunity of learning with these bikes because of my weight. Now back to what I was saying, you have to be physically fit for these bikes. You gotta have strong legs and a strong core, because you're not supposed to be putting the weight on your bars. You're supposed to squeeze the tank and let your lower half do the work. If you're putting your weight on the bars, you're gonna get fatigue, you're gonna get an arm pump, and you're gonna start tensing up. You're gonna start, you know, death gripping the handles and stuff. That's where you end up whiskey throttling, or you know, you're too slow, or you're too fast to grab something and grab the clutch, or the brake too soon or too hard or whatever, and it's just not a good time, and it's borderline dangerous. So you need to know how to properly use your body strength to actually operate these bikes. And again, it's a bit different, you know, on a Harley you're laid back and stuff, but at the same time those things are like 800 freaking pounds, and you got to be able to hold it up with your legs. You're going to have a lower center of gravity, so you're going to have more like quad strength towards keeping it up, but overall you are going to still need the strength for that bike even. Now, you can go, I mean, adventure bikes. Balance is a very big thing on adventure bikes, because if you're, you know, I don't even know how they work. I've never messed with a dual sport. I've never ridden on a dirt track or anything. But you see a lot of people standing up and doing slow maneuvers through rocks and stuff. And again, if you don't have a good, you know, posture and strength with your core and your legs and everything, and you can't, you know, maneuver your arms as freely and everything, because that's another thing. I think it was just because I was literally not using it. My shoulders were really bad when I first started out in the gym. Despite being like 16 at the time, I felt almost like I had a rotator cuff injury. But as I worked through it, kind of like a physical therapy sort of thing, I managed to get more range of motion that I didn't have before. So that's another thing, is you get that range of motion to do your proper maneuvering on these bikes. So overall, as I've explained these different perspectives of different parts of riding, and why you need more strength and you should build up your body with it, I think you can kind of understand why I would say that the gym was probably the biggest thing that helped me gain confidence and just be an overall better rider. Because and one thing I'll give to gaming is quick response time, quick reaction time. But I've still withheld that through my riding journey, and then I'm stronger now. I can maneuver the bike better. I have more weight to lean over to one side to work with the bike. I crank the suspension down a proper amount now that I weigh more. So it really is a big thing that you might not think about if you're just starting out riding, especially if you're, you know, in your mid-teens, just starting out riding and you're a really small dude. I can't, you know, there's not really ever going to be a negative to it. Obviously, you can get hurt and stuff if you're not paying attention right. You got to keep your diet right and stuff, but overall, there's really not a negative to focusing on your, you know, well-being and health. I don't see an excuse not to give it a shot. And if you just gave yourself 6 months to gain some muscle mass and like just core strength, you know, you would be amazed, especially on these sport bikes, how much of a difference it would make for your riding experience. And again, this goes for everybody, like not just short riders. Like I will say, if you're a shorter rider and you're, again, really small, it will help you. It absolutely will, because it made a huge difference for me. I mean, even with like getting my foot down, again, you're heavier, you're setting the suspension lower, and then you can touch the ground because you're closer to it. So I'm probably getting quite redundant by this point, but like I said, especially if you're a smaller, shorter person, I'd highly recommend getting in the gym and put on a little bit of mass. It'll help you a lot in your riding journey overall, and obviously there's all the other benefits that come with being, you know, healthy minded and with a healthy body. There's so many other benefits to it, but it can directly benefit, you know, if this is your passion, it'll make a big difference. And it's only positive. It's only ever been positive. Unless you pump yourself full of steroids to where you can't look over your shoulder and you can barely move your arms, I don't think you're gonna have a problem riding after going to the gym versus before. So especially for the younger guys, but even I can suggest it for those lighter, you know, women are typically just going to be smaller, they're typically shorter. Get some leg muscles and you'll notice a huge difference with, you know, balancing your bike as somebody who has the tippy toe. And, you know, get those calf raises in and you'll be able to stand this thing up no problem on your tippy toe. So go out there, hit the gym, put on some muscle, care about your well-being, you know, you'll look better and you'll ride better.